And we are live. So, welcome to episode 184 of An American Werewolf in New Jersey. I am the American Werewolf. Yeah, 184 episodes. And Bill, you are frozen. You look like you're on the Discovery Channel when they talk to the CIA people and they're all in silhouette.
Dude. I'll be back.
Yeah. We'll be here.
Well, I was fine until you stopped.
Yeah, of course.
Of course it's your fault.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
I didn't know it was Hawaiian Sport Tuesday.
Yeah. It's Hawaiian here, Hawaii Day here in the Garden State, but that doesn't make much of a difference because we're here to talk about some sci-fi fantasy. Hold on a second.
Got me now?
There you go. Yeah, we got you. Third time's the charm. All right, so in the house tonight, we've got Johnny Wawa, A number 1. What's happening, man? It's good to have you back. It's been a little while, so we appreciate being able to get you back on again, and thanks for taking the time.
From the last time I was on till now, I lost 10 more pounds.
Yeah.
Whoa, because the last time you were here, you were down like 60 pounds, weren't you?
And I'm now down 70.
Holy shit.
Last December.
It's like the thin man.
Well, no, the semi-chunky man.
Yeah.
All right.
I used to be the chunky man. Now I'm the semi-chunky.
Well, now you're the thinner man. Okay. And we've got down at the bottom there, the bottom center, we've got Amphibian Bengal.
Call me Amphibian.
Splishing and a splashing all over the place.
Cancer-free tonight, fellas.
And in the chat, we've got Eric from Hey Internet Eric.
Hey.
Saying, hello, boys. Eric. Good evening, and maybe good morning, John. Making a reference to John's decision to skip the last stream and take a nap right through the whole thing.
Tells you how exciting the show was. No.
Exactly. It's like that Harry Potter thing where the sand goes through the hourglass.
Yep.
And if it's a good conversation, it goes fast. If it's a bad conversation, then it moves like really slowly. So it judges the quality of your conversational abilities.
Well,
yeah, exactly. I better keep pushing. Here we are. And originally, I had a whole list of movies for the summer, and we went through quite a few of them, and we're almost in August. So we've gone through quite a few films. Let's see, what have we done so far? We've done The Highlander. We've done Beowulf. We've done The Northman. We've done District 9. We've done Dune. And we were doing that about the pace of about one a week. And then what happened was I saw that there were a lot of films left on the list that were going to be difficult for people to have access to. Movies like Ex Machina or Pan's Labyrinth or, something, things that are a little more obscure. Unless you've got it on physical media like I do, then, I'm not going to ask for people to, spend money. So I revised the list and came up what I thought were some, except for Bill, who's too lazy that one time to get the Devil's Rejects and actually paid for it rather than get up and
I paid pay-per-view prices to see the Devil's Rejects because I was laying on my couch and I was too lazy to get up, and it was sitting on DVD right on the shelf. I could look at it, and I just didn't want to get up.
That's $4. That's
It's $4 of my life, worth every penny.
Exactly. That's the only way to look at it. So I decided to go with a list that could possibly be a tad more accessible to everybody. And so I went through Tubi and I went through Pluto TV and these sorts of things, and where I felt most people had access, and came up with a completely new list. And that started off with this movie here, which is John Carpenter's Escape from New York. So if you guys are ready, shall we get it going?
Let's escape.
Boogity woogity. So we had a couple other people that were going to show up tonight. Ryan, and thank God he bailed because it's fucking Ryan. No, I'm just kidding. Because it's fucking Ryan. And then we had the Goraphobe who was going to be here, and he had to cancel at the last second. But I'm glad it's you two that have made it.
Thanks. Don't listen to him, Ryan. We love you.
Yeah. Anyway,
I only like
anyway,
I'm kidding.
I didn't even hear what you said.
I said I only like you, Ryan.
I'm
not a committer.
Yeah. Here's a question. I'm glad it is YouTube because here's a question I wanted to ask, and I wanted to ask it when we did Highlander, and I had Eric here.
Yeah.
And Eric, I think, had only seen Highlander once before the stream because Eric is like 15 years young.
He is one of the best movie consumers I have encountered. And how is it possible?
There are tons, and Eric hasn't seen any of the Hammer horror, and anything like there's but because Eric is like 15 years younger than us.
Yeah, goddamn millennials.
We forget about that. Eric is not our age, so Eric is 15 years, give or take, in either direction, younger than us. So Eric had only seen it for the first time, and that was a question I wanted to ask, and it wasn't appropriate to ask Eric because he had only seen it the once. We have seen Escape from New York now, coming up within the past day or so. It's currently streaming on Pluto TV. And I guess, well, before I get into the question, let's go to John. John, what did you think of your recent screening of Escape from New York?
I will be brutally honest. I was surprised how much I still liked it. Because when I first saw it, and again, since you were already talking about how much older we are than Eric, which I think should be a theme for one of these shows, I saw this movie the first time in a movie theater with my sister, who was bored on a Friday night and said, "Do you want to go see a movie with Kurt Russell?" And I was like, sure. I had no idea what it was. Walked into the movie, saw it was John Carpenter, and I'm like, oh, Halloween. It was my first initial response. And I was blown away by it. I was about 15, if I'm not mistaken, or 16. And I'm sitting there going, I can't believe how good this movie was. And I was laughing at some points in it, and I was getting into it, and I was shocked. And when I saw it again, I found myself laughing at the same spots and really enjoying it. And I let some of the things that would kind of bother me now, saying, all right, like some of the special effects and stuff were bugging me since it was 1981.
Right.
But then again, after I saw it the first time, I found some documentary stuff on YouTube, and it explained why the stuff was so cheap because of how low the budget was for the movie.
Yeah, you could obviously tell.
Yeah. So, and I'm sitting there, I was impressed with it more when I saw it the second time in recent days after seeing the documentary, saying, how the hell they pulled this off?
Okay.
Like, I was genuinely shocked that the voiceover announcement was done by Jamie Lee Curtis, and I did not know that until today.
Okay.
So I was shocked.
All right. Bill, same question. Initial thoughts without getting into too many details. What did you think of your recent viewing?
I enjoyed it, but I got to admit I was glad it was only like an hour and a half because it went quick. I first saw this on HBO. I was probably 13, and that's how I've consumed all the movies because they were all on HBO all the time. And my brothers and I used to just watch movies obsessively on HBO, and all the time there would be my dad behind us laughing at the cheesy parts and making fun of them. And as a 13-year-old, this movie is the best because it sparks imagination. You're not looking for it all to be on the screen. You're just like, whoa, that's a good idea. Wow, that's awesome. Because you don't have the knowledge to go, that's cheesy, that sucks, that would never happen. So yeah, this movie is like a 13-year-old's dream, and I hadn't watched it in a long, long time. Probably last time I saw it was 1985. And I enjoyed watching it. I was amazed at how cheap it looked this time.
Yeah.
Because what I remembered, it was, a very modern movie and the effects and the computers. And this time it was, I could feel the low budget, but I'm a fan of B movies, and I'm being a big Godzilla consumer, I'm adept at ignoring all the cheapness in order to enjoy a film, and I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Okay, so let me then hit you both with the follow-up question, and whoever wants to, go first can go. And I think I know what the answer is already. Does this movie hold up?
Nah. I can't say that it holds up. There's a lot of stuff that I appreciated remembering as a kid, but if that was the first time I was watching this movie, being spoiled in 2023, I'd probably go, what is this crap?
John?
I think it does hold up only because of the story itself. Yes, the a lot of the stuff now it shows its age, but the core story that's there really, really works. And I think that to me will, even if somebody is younger, because I brought younger nieces and nephews to this a few years ago when they were to get them to watch this movie, they got into it too. I really do think the story holds, even with it's in a cheap suit.
Yeah, that's a good way to play to say it in a cheap suit. It's you've got a really good cast here. You've got Kurt Russell, who I think does a lot of heavy lifting here. He does a lot of heavy lifting, but he's not the only. Like, you got really good actors here. You got Harry Dean Stanton as the Brain. You've got Donald Pleasance as the President. You've got Lee Van Cleef, who just never fails to play a son of a bitch, good or bad, in anything you ever see. That's just his role. It's like his default position. He's always a son of a bitch. Like at the very end, when Pliskin comes up, to get the X-rays done in his neck, and he blocks him. He goes, "Where's the tape?" He's gonna get every last 100% of everything. Before Pliskin is allowed to, be rescued or to be treated. But yeah, it just the execution, and I was having these same thoughts watching Highlander last week. You've got Connery, who adds a lot of gravitas. You've got Clancy Brown, who just knocks it out of the park. But I'm just like, I'm looking at these fight scenes, and I'm like, wow, this is not good. I still like the movie. I think I gave it like 3 stars or something out of 5. And John knows that, he and his brother Paul introduced me to Highlander like a year after it came out or something. I don't think I had seen it until I got to college and started to meet these guys. But I looked at it and I'm like, wow, the execution of this movie is not great. And maybe it is because it's just on a shoestring budget, but it seemed like everybody was just really high. And like, if you've been really high, something that you think is like really great sometimes, you're like, wow. And then you wake up the next day and you're like, what the fuck was I thinking about? It's like completely fucking stupid. And that's kind of the way I saw this one this time.
This was the first one that Kurt Russell did where he was trying to trash his teen star image, his Disney image, right?
This was right after.
It was after this that they did the thing. Right?
Yeah, and Elvis.
Yeah, the next year.
Yeah.
So next year, I mean, because I'm not knocking Carpenter in terms of this 70s to like late 80s, early 90s time frame, that 15-year block where he was just hitting everything out of the park. That's not what I'm doing. But I mean, we could see that the very next year, because I think this is 81.
Yeah.
You can see the very next year they were gonna collab for a masterpiece, Kurt Russell and Carpenter, and do the thing. And Ryan and I had just seen the thing for the 40th anniversary last year. And first time I ever saw it on the big screen, and I'm like, this is amazing. But yeah, this movie was, you're like, oh, this is Like the weapons and the like the ninja stars, and I'm like, oh, this is like, if it what for me, because I did not enjoy it, but I was kind of ready for it to be over when it was over. And like Bill said, unfortunately, when you or like I was saying, when you watch it with these free channels, every 10 minutes you would get like a 3-minute break
commercial.
So it extended the movie like another 30 minutes, and you're like, what the fuck, man? Like, I just want it's a 90-minute movie. You're like killing all the brevity that probably would have made me enjoy it more.
Right.
So there were a couple of different factors in here, but I'm just like, fuck, man. This
if I
really poorly executed.
Yeah, I know, but there were some good performers who were trying to really make what they had work.
Yeah,
and you gave the wonderful list, but you forgot Adrienne Barbeau.
Yeah, you can't forget her.
She
fresh off the Swamp Thing, man.
Even with that smaller role that she had, she brought something to it. They were really trying to see what they can do and make it work. And for the performer in me, will sit there and go, "All right, they're trying to make something with absolutely no budget type deal." And I will always have that in my head when I review a movie.
Well, this is a movie that would have been better if they weren't trying to show the entire future world. Like if it was done like a Tarantino movie where they're trapped underground or something, and it was solely driven by the performances instead of, well, let's try to get some kind of computer graphics here. Let's land a glider on top of the World Trade Center. It's just that it's so ambitious for the low money that they have.
Exactly. And it's I've seen some movies that have failed trying to do it. I've seen some movies that actually pull it off. Is it dated? Yes. There's no doubt whatsoever.
I think it's that the script wasn't that great. Like, you've got Harry Dean Stanton. Harry Dean Stanton's like a hell of a fucking actor, man.
Yeah.
I just, I'm like, oh shit, I forgot he was in this. I love Harry Dean Stanton from Ridley Scott's Alien, and he was even in The Last Temptation of Christ. He plays Saul, who becomes Paul on the road to Damascus.
That's right.
He's just got a laundry list of credits, but I feel like some of these actors didn't have enough to do because it's a B movie. It's essentially a B movie, but you've got like A-list talent in a B movie. So like the A-list people they're not being used as much as they could. And I don't want to sound like somebody who can't enjoy a movie because, I can, but I don't know. That was just my feeling watching it again.
It's an ensemble cast squozing through 80 minutes worth of movie. So there was, you're right. There wasn't enough for any of them to do. And the fact that all the characters are so memorable, 30 years on, 40 years on, that's a testament to what they did do with what they had. Because this is no doubt a very beloved movie. I love it. I remember it from, as a child. I love this movie, despite its limitations.
Every time I hear them say they're going to remake this movie, there's a little tinge in my stomach saying, "No, just leave it alone.
Just leave it alone." Yeah, don't.
The right person could do it.
Yeah,
if you had
the right people could do it, and if the special effects would be great today.
Yes, but they would screw up the plot. If you could keep the plot intact and the charm intact, and just surround it with modern special effects, it would be fantastic.
Here's the thing.
No, that's another movie.
Yeah. Next year, wrong year. Sorry. No, but here's the thing. I mentioned this when I brought up Highlander, and I think it's to the credit of this film and Highlander, in that the stars of the movie, even though they're both clearly action films, although Highlander veers off into romance and all this kind of stuff, the stars don't look like action figures.
Right.
Like the guys you get today. The Hemsworth, the Henry Cavills, the big Jack guys. Kurt Russell played it. He just played it oily.
Yes.
He's just kind of call me Snake.
Right.
what are you going to do? I'm thinking about it. I don't give a shit about your.
Yeah.
And it was the same with Lambert. When he played Connor McLeod. I mean, the
Yeah.
Kurgan. Clancy Brown plays an intimidating character. But I like the fact that these '80s guys they weren't the Schwarzenegger types.
And when
and so I think that adds something as opposed to action stars today.
Right.
A little on the generic side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they all have to be beefcake ex-wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a drawback. Unless you're
Tom Cruise.
Well, Tom Cruise, yeah, but I was thinking like Matt Damon in Bourne.
Actually, I was
Keanu in
John Wick.
I was thinking of the latest Batman movie that came out.
Oh, Pattinson.
Patterson, he was not jacked. I mean, he was like in shape. He wasn't like overweight like I am.
Yeah.
But he was, but he refused to get jacked. They wanted him to get all bulked up, go to the same guy that Chris Evans went to look like Captain America. And right. He said, no, I'll do it myself, and kept it very simple. And he said it's for the same reason. He goes, to have them look already superhuman, you know, how big do the villains got to be?
Yeah, right. They had the CGI, what's his name, to look like a skinny loser at the beginning of Captain America. That's true.
Yeah, Chris Evans. Yeah. He played the emaciated sort of Steve Rogers, had some sort of chronic illness or something. But, I mean, you look at it, I mean, think back to Batman in like 89 with Keaton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks like a guy, he just looks like a regular guy you would pass on the street. He doesn't, you're right, Bill. He doesn't look like he just wrestled for the WWE,
right.
Or something like that, as opposed to like, look at even what Snyder did, with Ben Affleck. He bulked up to like 250 pounds, at like 6'4". He just became this behemoth for the thing. So, there's something to that. And so when you don't have that physicality, you have to rely more on the acting.
Right.
And so, I think that's what we got here. The Lee Van Cleefs of the time, coming off those spaghetti westerns, that's acting, Donald Pleasance, going back to The Great Escape, and Halloween, sort of, they're acting. And I did appreciate that part of it. I mean, you're right. It's a fantastic premise, that
the movie does kind of feel like
a
sci-fi version of a Sergio Leone spaghetti western.
I agree.
Yeah.
And Snake Plissken is that, the man with no name.
Yes, yeah.
That rides in a town, doesn't give a shit, but we'll do.
There's Lee Van Cleef to try to kick him in the balls at every fucking turn.
Yeah. And then when Kurt Russell looked at Van Cleef and said, "When this is over, I'm going to kill you," you believed him.
Yeah.
It wasn't overly dramatic. It wasn't. And the same thing with Van Cleef. When he made a threat, you believed him. Shit, even Isaac Hayes, when he made a threat, he really did a decent job in this film, man. For being the Duke of New York.
The Duke of New York. Oh God.
He made it. He put some stuff in. Like, and I forgot this actor here is with Van Cleef too, but it's the
Tom
same
Atkins.
thing.
He
leaned on the eye. He leaned on the eye twitch a little too much, man. Come on. That was like his one signature move. Every time you saw him, he's like,
We talking about Isaac Hayes?
Yeah. He twitched when he saw Plissken.
Oh, Jesus.
And it's like, but these guys here, I believe they were cops or at least military police.
Yeah, and go
ahead.
No, they looked the part. And they look the guy's smoking. That you don't see smoking in the movies anymore.
Right. Plissken, every time he's under a 20-hour time limit, but he's got time to light up every 2 minutes.
Hey, he's under a lot of pressure, man. He's under a lot of stress, he needs that fucking nicotine hit, to carry him through. It's actually you're right, it is a great premise in that, Manhattan Island has become like the nation's prison.
Right.
And so they just kind of drop you in there and then do like monthly food drops. So you're just on your own, it becomes like, survival of the fittest. And so it's descended into this it's this like hellish kind of, bizarro world, with people living in the sewers and,
that's the hottest part, man. Is like you're taking all these criminals from future America, and all of a sudden they're turning into like mole people, like in the 1800s with the ripped clothes and all.
Yeah. Yeah, they're like the Morlocks, from like H.G. Wells or something like that. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and so the president, his plane goes down over Manhattan Island, and they have to send in somebody. And Pliskin is a guy who's just about to get shipped there for trying to rob the gold reserve. He's like a special forces guy. Now, like I said, a special forces guy today going to be looking like Dave Bautista. Instead, you've just got this guy with an eye patch who just chain smoking, and just cursing you out left and right. Huh?
Long hair hippie. Smoking with his long hair.
What do you want?
Yeah.
Snake,
man.
Yeah, you get this sense of the
cold in the script are very cool. Like you got to imagine and have that imagination for like, what, we're at war with Russia. And China's on board, and things are just messed up everywhere, and we have ex-special forces guys robbing the Federal Reserve. That is some chaos.
Yeah,
that
is almost Mad Max level chaos.
Yeah, there's like anarchy happening everywhere. It seems there's just complete instability everywhere, and the things that are intact are just kind of being glued together or like scotch taped together, at best.
Right.
What did you think of? So they send him in there. They put it's just such a dirty fucking thing that Lee Van Cleef does.
Yeah.
Injecting him with that poison, but it's and like I don't think anybody. I mean, Eric would probably get it, but nobody younger than Eric would get it. That's just perfect Lee Van Cleef.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I said, he's just a son of a bitch. Like every fucking role he ever plays, he's just he's just a nasty SOB. And so he injects him with something that's going to kill him in 24 hours, and then when it starts, it's like 23 hours.
Yeah,
like he counts the hour that they've been talking.
Right.
He counts that against him. And I'm like, you're a fucking bastard, man.
I think it was Carpenter's tribute to like Hitchcock. Yeah. Hitchcock always used to say he'll put the bomb in a drawer. You'll see him and you'll hear it tick. Right. He puts it in a drawer, and then when the people come into the room, the audience starts getting anxious because they know there's a bomb there. It's the same thing with that. It's a good urgency to make him move.
Yeah, they didn't explain so much. Or they didn't explain enough what the stakes were as far as the president and what this tape is, and what's the meeting that he's missing and has to present something to avoid another an all-out nuclear war or something. Right. None of that. All that's glossed over. All you care about is this guy Snake that I just met 2 seconds ago. He's going to blow up if we don't.
Yeah, he's going to die, man. Yeah,
that's the urgency.
And it's amazing how little the president is actually part of the story.
Right.
The story is Snake Plissken. It's not about the president's plight.
Yeah.
When Lee Van Cleef and the guys go in, that one guy that's like the number one for the Duke.
Yeah.
Gives him the box with the fucking cut off thumb. You never see it, but you're just like, fuck, they just cut off I remember the first time I saw that. I remember that scene. I'm like, holy shit, they cut off the president of the United States thumb?
Finger. Yeah.
They're like just fucking dicing him up into fucking pieces because it's just fucking, like I said, it's just Darwinism.
Let's send the craziest Lou Reed looking guy we have to go present it to the cops.
Well, it is New York, so,
And it's funnier than hell when that laugh. That laugh of his just always got me. It's like,
So, they send him in, and, what's your take on New York?
It's pretty, it was a great idea. I had no idea at 13 what New York was about. So, but I knew the skyline, and I knew it was an island, and it just made sense. Like, oh, that's they're just gonna wall off Manhattan. Fantastic idea.
Yeah.
Now, watching it now, I got a little queasy watching the plane fly so low overhead, heading toward the Twin Towers. But the coolest scene was him landing that glider on the roof of the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
That was badass.
Yeah,
For
that's
a low budget movie. That one had me on the edge of my seat. Like, oh, how's you going to make it?
That was an interesting point because I wrote that in the notes. Yeah, there's like a communist party, like the workers. This is for the workers, and they drive the fucking like Air Force One into a skyscraper in Manhattan. I said communist full of 9/11. That's what was in my notes. So yeah, that was very eerily prophetic.
Yeah,
you know, watching that happen, and I'm like, fuck, okay, you know,
20 years
later,
yeah,
that you know, someone was actually going to do that. But I mean, you know, New York is, and I like that. Like the majority of, well, almost all of this movie takes place at night.
Right.
You know, so it takes place at night. There is a bit of action that occurs during the daytime, but you're inside and you can't really tell. So like all the settings are very dark.
Yes.
Right.
And he just runs into all sorts of characters. Ernest Borgnine's some fucking cab driver.
Yeah.
You know, playing bebop, you know, on the radio. You know, there's that one woman. And everybody seems to know who he is.
Yeah.
Who, Snake?
Everybody, you're Snake Plissken.
I thought you were dead.
Yeah, I thought you were dead. I am. You know? So I mean,
and I really did kind of like that. So because they knew who he was, so you know, everybody knew who he was, so to speak. So when he walked into a room, you could tell why everybody got quiet.
Yeah, and everybody knew he was a serious guy.
Yeah,
you know, oh shit, you know, this.
But
guy
that's and it was they had all these wonderful characters that were running the streets at night in New York, and I liked Cabby. I always felt that Cabby never was arrested. He just never left.
It's very bizarre because if you had cast this differently, this wouldn't be a movie that garnered any attention. I think even though it's bad, if they were just unknowns, like no one would pay attention to this movie. If Kurt Russell was not the lead and it had just been some B-80s movie with a B-80s actor, you know, no one would have paid attention. You know, no one. It wouldn't have made a difference. And even though the script is bad, the faces sort of make it. And then, you know, the performances, even though, you know, like I said, I don't feel they have that much to work with, actually sort of carry it home. And I mean, it is a cult classic.
Right.
It's not Carpenter's best work by a long shot. I mean, I actually prefer Assault on Precinct 13 to this. It's probably in terms of Carpenter's work, this is probably my least favorite. But yeah, I mean,
it was kind of an exploitation movie. It came out right at the time when the Bronx was failing, Brooklyn was failing, New York was going through that upheaval, the financial upheaval, and there was a spate of movies that had come out, all of them depicting New York as this sort of hellscape of criminality, like The Exterminator. I'm trying to think of the rest of them, like The Exterminator and like Class of.
I remember that movie. Robert Ginty.
Yeah, it seemed like every other week there was another movie set in New York, either future New York or current New York.
Remember Paul Newman? Paul Newman in Fort Apache, the Bronx.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
But if you go even go into the 70s, you have like there were movies that were exploitation films like Super Cops, or there was another movie called Freebie and the Bean, and a lot of them were shot in New York because they were running through New York with cameras to get the live. To get the live action from people without permission. I mean, I found it ironic for this movie when they said. When they couldn't approach New York because they couldn't have the money, and New York said we wouldn't bring you in anyway because you're saying that New York is destroyed. You know, it was like, and I'm like, there you go, you know, you're right. But it's
Warriors.
Yeah.
Warriors
was another one.
Yeah.
Shoestring budget, cheap movie. in the same tropes, but that one was done
riding
with
the subway in the L to get back to the beach.
That one was the one that was done with all the unknowns and succeeded to become just as much of a cult classic as this one.
Exactly.
Yeah. In fact, if that comes on, people still stop and watch. Oh shit, the Warriors are on. You don't see it very often. You don't see it very often, but yeah.
So it's similar in that everything's indoors, it's underground, it's very dark, and people are running here and running there. And someone's chasing you, and you're going to get killed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of, sort of.
Well, it's kind of funny because my one nephew took 2 bottles and walked up to his brother and started going, clink, clink, Warriors. Jeez. And I started laughing out loud. He was like 9 years old, going clink, 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 clink. And I'm like, this is funny.
That's awesome. I made that joke in class once, and the kids were like, what?
What?
No, what, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if it's not on TikTok, they don't know it nowadays. If it's not,
that should be a TikTok trend. People just doing that.
Clinking bottles.
Yeah.
Do they have bottles anymore? They have to get beer bottles.
Yeah, they're plastic. You gotta wait till Christmas
bottle.
when Coke releases the soda in the bottles.
Yeah.
In glass.
Well, and here we got Harry Dean Stanton playing the Brain. Who sort of nose snake.
Yeah.
You know, he double crossed him. He's just a bastard because he's just double crossing throughout the whole thing, just trying to stay alive.
Hello,
he's
Harold.
Just jumping camps left and right, and I'm just like, you sleazy bastard.
Yep.
I love Harry Dean Stanton.
Hello, Mr. It's funny because I heard somebody else say this, so I'm not taking credit, but it was when they spoofed this movie years later when it was like to Escape from L.A.
Yeah.
They had Steve Buscemi play the Harry Dean Stanton character.
Oh, really?
And the thing about it is that
I don't remember it.
Yeah, there was, and the thing about it was that Harry Dean Stanton said, "Yeah, Buscemi's my illegitimate son," you know, because they play the same type of characters in it in movies, but one was like 25 years before Buscemi. You know,
I got to tell you, I mean, I remember seeing Harry Dean Stanton even in the Avengers movie. He's got like a 3-minute part in there. Yep. I don't know if you remember this when the Hulk flies off that helicraft and just like crashes to Earth, and he's like, "Son, you got a condition."
Yeah,
you know, are you an alien? And no, son, you got to here's some clothes. You know, son, you got a condition. He's only in it for 3 minutes. But I'm like, fuck yeah, it's great to see Harry Dean Stanton again, man. One of the
he gets a lot of respect.
Yes,
yeah, one of my favorite kills in Alien.
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially if you watch that director's cut, you know, where he's in the all the water, the evaporation, the condensation is dripping down on his face, and that, you know, the alien just just fucking yanks him up, you know, like right into the fucking rafters, and then all the blood could come shooting down. It's just fucking great, man. It's always
one of my favorite things that Harry Dean Stanton did. I think it was like 98 or 99. When all that hype about Hunter S. Thompson was going on, he did a CD of him reading and playing the part of Raoul Duke, reading through the Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is fantastic.
Okay, all right. I remember Thompson saying that. I mean, I perhaps these, you know, I don't know whatever happened to them, but that, or maybe it was Johnny Depp. And he was saying that those actual audio recordings still exist on the ride to Vegas.
Yes.
You know, in tape in cassette form. But I don't know if they've been digitized or anything like that. So, I mean, I thought it went a little far with the Duke. The Duke.
A number one.
A number one.
Yeah, A number one. A number one. The Duke of New York. What did you guys think of
when he was driving a caddy with chandeliers?
Chandeliers.
I mean, I'm sorry.
That clearly is that. Then you have strayed into the exploitation realm.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Oh God.
Absolutely.
I saw his real Cadillac at a museum in Memphis, Tennessee, and it had a record player in the driver's seat. So I was imagining that as part of his Cadillac in this.
He wasn't acting.
No, it was.
No, that was his car. He just drove out of his driveway onto the set.
Yeah. Hold on, let's just use that one. Let's just roll with it.
So he comes rolling up, and Harry Dean Stanton is actually like the master blaster in that he's pumping gas. If you caught it in the background, he's got the refinery set up in the New York Public Library, which I thought was hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. So
there he is.
Yeah, there he is. They end up. He has to have that fight with Ox Baker with the baseball bats.
No, yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course you got to have that.
You need to report his violence fight.
It really is like a Road Warrior type, like Mad Max type. Because when you're just doing that, then you've descended into something else entirely. But they end up. Without getting into too much, unless you guys wanted to, they end up escaping. From the going over the bridge.
Yeah.
Okay.
What?
I said okay. Yes, we're jumping over there.
Yeah. So, what do you guys?
Brain had a map, but I never saw them reading the map, and they just sort of hauled ass across the 69th Street.
Well, no, he was saying jog to the left, and it's make a left, make a right, and it was funny because he was running with the map, telling him where to walk, and he walked into the landmine himself.
Yep.
I thought it was hysterical. I'm like, dude, did you have that map upside down?
Yeah.
Obviously, now I will never make another joke about Google Maps ever again because obviously this guy was. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I actually was funny because when the cab blew up and it split in half. They all came running out of the back seat. I remember being in the movie theater laughing my ass off because I just thought that was funnier now. But then in the movie theater, when Kurt Russell looked and Cabby was dead, in the movie theater there was an audible "aw," because I don't know, people liked Ernest Borgnine in that part. Being the simple-minded, I guess would be a good way to put it.
Pretty much.
And it was like, yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not too familiar with Ernest Borgnine's work. He's probably not one of those characters that you're used to having die. So it's probably like Connery and Highlander. You're like, oh shit, he died. Like you would never. Highlander dropped, I think, a year before the Untouchables.
Right.
So he died in the Untouchables, and you're like, fuck. I can't believe Sean Connery just died because you always associate him with James Bond. So that could be the case here with Borgnine, and that people just aren't used to. Because back then, 1980, he's still a pretty big star.
Yeah, I only knew him from McHale's Navy.
Actually, Mike,
you can't see him blowing up.
Actually, Mike, if you get a chance, there's a movie that came out in the late 50s, early 60s called Marty.
Oh, yeah.
That a black and white film that Ernest Borgnine won the Academy Award for.
Okay.
And what he was a regular butcher in a town looking to find a date because his mom kept wanting him to get married. He's like, Mom, I'm not the good looking guy.
Right.
Type deal. And he used to do drama or play the heavy villain. It wasn't until McHale's Navy people said, oh, wait, he has a sense of humor.
Right.
But he used to be like the heavy guy. Not just in weight, but like playing the villain or the sidekick. So that's why when I saw him in that, I was actually surprised. And I liked him. And he done. I went, oh, damn it. But that's me being a little boy.
I remember seeing, I think I just watched it recently, the Delta Force.
Yeah.
The old Chuck Norris movie. And I forgot, Lee Marvin's in that. George Kennedy's in that. Martin Balsam is in that. There's just a ton of like old school actors that play the different roles in that, and you're just like, fuck, all right, I forgot all these guys were in that.
Here's a bit of trivia I found out on this was that the studios wanted Chuck Norris to play Snake.
Wow.
Before Kurt Russell was chosen, it was oh God, I can never remember his name, but the guy that was in Death Wish.
Charles Bronson.
Charles Bronson.
That would have been interesting.
He had already done the New York Hellscape movie.
Yeah. Chuck Norris and Tommy Lee Jones.
Really?
Because Tommy Lee Jones did a movie that Carpenter wrote called The Eyes of Laura Mars.
Right.
And
I remember that movie. Yeah.
And he couldn't get free, and then Carpenter worked with Kurt doing the Elvis movie for TV. He directed it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when he said, "No, I want Kurt Russell." He kept pushing for Kurt Russell to do this.
Yeah, they didn't think he could do it because of his clean cut image.
Right.
And he shows up as oily, chain smoking, one-eyed.
And he works with Van Cleef. Come on.
Yeah, and he's working with Van Cleef. Yeah. And working well.
Yeah.
Working well. Yeah. Yeah, he's clearly the star of the movie. Even though you have a lot of other A-list talent in there, nobody steals any scenes from Kurt Russell.
That's right.
He shines over everybody else in this. I suppose for me, one of the more interesting characters in here was Donald Pleasance.
Yeah.
Who plays the president. Because I guess it just isn't a role you usually, especially at that time. I mean, later on we have movies like Air Force One, where the president is compromised or something like that. Because you're used to seeing the president, in the traditional role, and he's got the voice and, he's saying, important things or, making important decisions. Here, you're seeing the president as kind of just a pudgy bald guy, who's just, being fucking victimized by, these people who just don't give a fuck who he is.
Right.
He's just, he's like a fucking, he's like you throw him into prison.
Right.
He's just, he's going to get fucking roughed up. I mean, they've cut off his thumb. They're just using him for fucking target practice. And I thought, Donald Pleasance did a pretty good job, of playing afraid because he's a really good actor. I mean, people usually just recognize him from, playing Dr. Loomis. But, he's actually a pretty good actor. But he's also...
I remember being disappointed when I first saw it in Donald Pleasance for being such a wuss in that movie because Dr. Loomis is such a badass that it was just such an opposite sort of way to play the character.
Well, later on, I mean, he would go on to play the priest in Prince of Darkness, and he's kind of a wuss in that too.
Yeah.
He spends the entire time when the fight goes down hiding behind that bureau, and you're like, if anybody could use a priest right now, it would be right fucking now. Like Satan's minions are like in a fucking fist fight with these college students, and the one priest is hiding behind the door. He doesn't come out until like the last 30 seconds, to throw the axe through that mirror.
Right.
But, the president in this role is not the president anymore. He's been compromised, and so you sort of see him as a person, but then like they rescue him and he's, what did you think of him? Like Snake is talking to him, like, a lot of people died, trying to get you out, what do you think about that? And he's just like, I don't know if he didn't know what to say or if he's just kind of when you get to it, he was just a shallow asshole.
He's playing it like the president's so far removed from the peasants who would be in the New York prison, which is just a projection of us normal people. But he's so far removed from them and lives on that higher level that he doesn't know or doesn't care how to deal with the situation.
If you remember when he left the plane, when they stuck him in the giant red egg, as I like to put it. When he said goodbye to everybody, he was dismissive with them too.
Yes.
Exactly. God protect me and thank you for
God protect me and the rest of you. But
and he just, but the way he was that was just him.
Yeah.
He was, the ones beneath him were beneath him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and very self-important. Yeah,
and even when Snake walked up to him and said that, he goes, "I just have one, whatever you want, I just have to ask you one question. There's a lot of people that died. Well, how do you feel?" and it was like the stale, stereotypical political answer or politician answer. Well, they're sacrifice. No, dude. It was to me that made me think of Snake Plissken. For somebody who didn't give a shit in the movie, he gave a shit at the end.
Right.
And that's why I think it's one of the redeeming qualities, or one of the many redeeming qualities of Snake Plissken as a character in film.
I like to think that he had those two different tapes.
Yeah.
And that moment decided which tape he was going to get.
Exactly. If the president gave him a genuinely honest answer, said, I didn't deserve to be saved, they should have been, he probably would have gave him the right tape.
Right.
And walked away and kept Cabby's tape.
Yep.
I agree with that type deal. But he was such a dick, so he's kind of like, boop, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, it just made it very easy for Pliskin to just give him the, I think you're right. He would have, sorry, you got the wrong tape.
If he gave a genuine thing that he was affected by their death.
Yeah, like a human being.
He probably would have said, here you go. All right.
Yeah.
You're a human being. Type deal. But
one of the things that go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was also going to say one of the things for Donald Pleasant's character, besides being this wimpy nebbish, he was also funny. When Snake first got him and he goes, Can you walk? I blame you. Get me out of here. I remember laughing at a lot of his stuff, like when he shot the Duke and started going, "Yeah, the Duke, yeah, the Duke." I started.
Yeah.
He was also the comic relief, which worked.
But it's also kind of it's a little bit of an arc. I mean, maybe I'm stretching it here because just for a second, you see the president like getting to reassert himself.
Right.
Yeah. You're like, it's not like Harrison Ford and, like I said, in Air Force One punching out terrorists, or like shooting.
It wasn't a mark.
But he gets a little bit of his manhood back.
Yeah.
Yeah. His power back, and that's where his manhood originates from. Is the power position.
And so you think for a second, okay, well, I like this guy. Okay, he's the president. He's been victimized. He gets a little bit of his, his balls back. But then, you put him in the seat and he's getting shaved, and he reverts right back into being,
and they're shaving him.
To let them eat cake crap.
Right.
Yeah. He's being shaved. Yeah. So, yeah.
I think like if he wasn't getting shaved and walked out scruffy. No, we got to do this, and but he wasn't
a real person.
Clean me up.
Yeah.
That's why when they started playing the big band music, and the look that hit his face is priceless.
Yes.
It really is priceless when you see, because he's like fuck, without saying a word, and I love that. I truly do. And it's credit to Don Pleasance as an actor that he can do that without saying fuck, but show it.
And then the best ending exchange ever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I thought, you're going to kill me now? Too tired. Just walking away, pulling the tape out of the cassette.
Now, to Lee Van Cleef's credit, he does try to give Pliskin, as much help as he can once he's inside.
Mm-hmm. It was very Rambo-ish, man, because he had that functionary guy with the tie behind him, and it reminded me of Murdoch from Rambo.
Right.
It wasn't fully played out, but Lee Van Cleef was trying to give him a little help, and there's this bureaucrat behind him, like, you can't do that.
When the helicopters were getting ready to take off, and the guy came out and said, his signal's on, is it? And he shut it all down. He's like, no, give him the chance. As much of a pain in the ass that he was, he knew what he was going through.
Because Lee Van Cleef was the man on the ground.
Yeah.
Even though he was the son of a bitch, you felt that he was, he was there with you. His feet were on the concrete.
And he's
as opposed to the president.
Special forces too. You got to remember that. I don't remember the name of his unit, but
When Kurt Russell recognized his name in the very beginning.
Bob Houck. He's Bob Houck.
And he looked at him and goes, "Yeah, your reputation. You're not the only one with a reputation." There was a sense of, I don't know if you want to call it respect, but you would know the fact. All right, you ain't the shit.
Recognition. There's recognition.
You're the shit. you've been through this.
Yeah.
Type deal.
One of the things I really liked about I love the score, the theme.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's just got this real mellow. And I'm like, fuck, that's really hot, man. I mean, that's just a cool fucking, huh?
Carpenter did that himself, right?
He did it. Somebody gave him a hand. There's another music credit, but I don't know if it was for that theme or some of the extra background music, which was still the same synthesizer. I love how they kept that all the way through.
This might be that might be my favorite Carpenter theme, actually.
Yeah,
and my least favorite Carpenter film, but my favorite Carpenter. I love that song, man.
There's a great CD that was out in like 1997 that had famous electronica musicians covering all the scores from all his movies, including Christine, Halloween, and this one. And this one is clearly the top.
I used to buy the soundtracks that I would make music for when I worked at Cape May Stage. But if I always saw something and they gave me a little extra money, I would buy some of the movie soundtracks from horror movies or science fiction films. But every time I would put on, if I'm working or at a party, and I would put on the Escape from New York theme, that don't. You would see every actor in the place all of a sudden, and they do the Snake Plissken turn. One actor I knew was wearing glasses, grabbed a napkin and wrapped it around the napkin. So he was, but they knew it. It's so it's as identifiable as the Halloween piano.
It's not nearly as annoying though. Halloween grates on you after a while. I could deal with it for about 60 seconds. You're like, fucking stop it. It's been 50 years. So many sequels to Halloween,
and they have to play it over and over. It's the same thing with The Thing. That low underscore type music.
Yeah.
Christ, even Starman, where Carpenter got nominated for directing for an Academy Award, even that music was all synth, type deal. It was but it's always underscoring as opposed to being overbearing. I like John Horner, but sometimes some of his music, I'm like, dude, I'm bleeding.
Vangelis was another one who had a lot of synth kind of scores going back in the day. Some of their stuff was a little overbearing at times.
Yeah, but it was the late 70s, early 80s. That was that style at the time.
That was what you got.
Even Stevie Wonder went from playing with live musicians to go into synth type music in his music type deal. It was
Hotter Than July and all that shit.
Yeah, it was a switch. And he made it work. Carpenter made it work.
Early versions of what was that? Don Johnson, Miami Vice, the Miami Vice soundtrack.
Oh, Van Hammer.
Yeah, it's like the culmination of all that John Carpenter stuff, and then on TV, it's the Miami Vice soundtrack.
Christ, even look at X-Files. That same, it's all that low.
Oh yeah.
But it's always that low, soft underscore. That's a really
nice. Is that Mark Snow? Is that Mark Snow?
And that makes it creepy. Yeah. It makes it a little creepy.
Yep. That was a great episode that we did, the top 5 themes and scores and soundtracks. Yeah. That was good. You and Josh, I remember laying out all the Trent Reznor. Like Bird Box. I think people were listening to Bird Box and then Chernobyl. And I'm like, fuck, I haven't thought of that in forever. And I'll just put on Bird Box and almost go to sleep sometimes, because it's just kind of repetitive, but it's a little dark. All right. So, it's an interesting thing actually. And I guess, maybe this will be the last segment for it. We've been going at it almost an hour. The possibilities for those other actors. Because all of them, I think, would have done a decent job. Chuck Norris, not much of an actor, but it would have been a different kind of action.
Yeah.
It would have been a completely different kind of action.
That whole wrestling thing would have been, or fighting a wrestler in the ring would be completely
different. Yes. Yeah, that would have been completely different. Yeah, fighting Ox Baker. Who was it? Tommy Lee Jones and who?
Tommy Lee Jones and Death Wish. I can't remember his name.
Charles Bronson. Charles Bronson would have been
Charles Bronson.
Charles Bronson would have.
They wanted to go with an older one.
Now, who's in today's action sci-fi horror group would you even try to plug into that?
I thought of one guy. Who was the guy that just got run over with the snowplow? Or the trailer?
Yeah. Hawkeye.
Jeremy Renner. Yeah,
I think he could do. I think he could do a good one because again, he's not that overly monstrosity type.
Yeah.
We got to be looking like the Hulk, even though we're not playing.
What about
Jeffrey Dahmer would do well too.
Evan Peters? Evan Peters.
Yeah, from American.
What about Jake Gyllenhaal?
I can see that. I could actually see him doing that. It would be a stretch for him to be that tough, because I've seen him be tough, but he comes across a little creepy.
Right. Well, he just did that movie. He just did that war movie, The Covenant, the Guy Ritchie movie, the Afghanistan movie. I haven't seen it yet. But I've heard really good things.
Yeah, he was good in Jarhead as well.
Yeah.
So I could see Jake Gyllenhaal.
But who they probably cast is Mark Wahlberg.
Chris Hemsworth, Wahlberg, or Hemsworth, or Hemsworth. Have you seen those Extraction films?
Yes,
they're fucking great.
They are.
That's John Wick level shit going on in there, man.
I always thought
20-minute long continuous shots.
I always thought when they were talking, because they were first talking about remaking this movie in the 90s.
Yeah, I heard that.
And I said, well, if they got Bruce Willis, Bruce Willis was in his heyday, but he was another one who did these action films and wasn't all,
Yeah. He had a little bit of a pot belly and, wearing a wife beater and, he was drunk most of the time.
He would be perfect for Snake.
Exactly. Well, he came off that great show, Moonlighting.
Yeah.
More important, which rapper would they get to play Duke of New York? Weekend or
Ice-T.
Ice-T would be great. I
could see Ice-T doing that.
Yeah.
Or I can never remember his name. Who was, because they also asked what's his name, the actor who did all the I can't remember the Selma Hayek movies with the assassin.
Antonio Banderas?
Yeah. No. The guy who directed all that.
Robert Rodriguez.
They want him to do the directing of it. That's one of the ones I just heard. Robert Rodriguez do it.
That would be pretty.
He would turn it into a Grindhouse movie.
Yeah.
Which it should be. It should be. That should be a Grindhouse movie, a sweaty, nasty fucking Grindhouse movie.
With the fight scene directed by Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah. And Quentin Tarantino would be the guy who shows the thumb.
Right.
He's the one who walked out
exactly.
that whole thing, And
you get Kurt Russell to play Bob Houck, get him to play Lee Van Cleef.
Actually, that would be a great one.
Damn straight.
That would be a great one.
Yeah, just get him to play fucking Bob Houck, and now he's going to be the son of a bitch.
As the president.
Oh Jesus! Yeah.
So Ben Kingsley too.
Yeah. Ben Kingsley could have done a great job.
He's Cabby.
Yeah. I could see Brendan Gleeson driving the cab or something.
Oh, God, yeah. That would be
right. There you go. Now you guys are thinking.
There we go. And now we actually have a budget.
Right.
Yeah. Hopefully
just to pay off all the actors, but they would actually have a budget.
Unfortunately, today's studio system would force The Rock to be Snake Plissken.
And that would and Cabby would be Chris Tucker or Kevin
Hart. Kevin
Hart would be Cabby.
Mm-hmm.
I saw this thing.
Or Brain.
Right.
Oh Jesus! Yeah, because you can't have one without the other.
Absolutely
Kevin Hart
not.
without The Rock.
You know what's one weird thing we didn't touch on was the part where they talked about how the Duke of New York gave Adrienne Barbeau to Brain.
Yeah.
And it was weird how she had a loyalty to him instead of being, I'm going to be the one that cuts his head off.
And you thought,
she probably has some protection.
Mm-hmm.
You'd probably, she'd need somebody to cover her. She'd be fucking descended upon. And that sort of thing. So by, hey, I'm going to give you somebody who's going to protect you, who's, a good friend or, the number one or, one of the upper subordinates of the Duke, you're in a privileged position.
She winds up standing down the forces that are chasing them and It's another example of a strong female character.
Yeah.
In Sci-Fi.
And she
40 years ago.
And she genuinely liked the brain.
Right.
You kind of thought you. Yeah. I thought when I first saw it, and then when I resaw it again, she had that like she was kind of annoyed with him. Like, yeah, the Duke
like
maybe.
The wife, you know?
But then all of a sudden, when he realized he was dead, in that world, he was probably only the nice guy to her. You know.
Yeah, he didn't seem to mistreat her or anything like that. Like he treated her as a partner. And they talked and like conferred and made decisions together. So they were a team.
And everything else. Where could he have it? I can't figure it out. And she was saying, So they were, for lack of a better term, a good couple.
Yeah. But here's something, and we were just talking about this with budgets. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to go too far off, but I found this the other day. I'm going to do a video on the writer's strike. This is and this is from Mead, the 4K master, Tom Connors Jr. And he says this is the main reason movie budgets are too high. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson will earn $50 million for Red One. This is the highest upfront payment any actor has received for one single role, and that's from Puck News.
It's a lot of Chinese dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Day-Lewis probably in his highest pay never got $50 million. It's the fucking. I mean, I've been a fan of The Rock since Rocky Maivia and the days of Nation of Domination and the WWF.
Mm-hmm. When he had a fanny pack.
Yeah. I watched that Monday Night Raw shit. I've been watching that since it's been around. Yeah. And before that on Saturday mornings. I'm one of the few people who didn't leave it on Saturday mornings and started watching it on Mondays and then on Thursdays and then on Fridays. So I've been watching wrestling my whole life. I'm a fan of this guy. But $50 million?
That's the way they see it is that he can bring in the money that they're going to be able to make.
They say he's the number one. Yeah, I mean, from these Fast and Furious movies, but I mean,
but I don't watch a movie because The Rock's in it.
Well, but there's a lot of people who do. And I hate
there's a lot of people who do.
I'd be pleasantly surprised if I saw something and The Rock was good in it, like that football series that he did.
Yeah, Ballers.
I like Walking Tall. Walking Tall.
Yeah, there you go.
I remember right after the first Avengers movie. They gave a lot more money to Robert Downey Jr. because he was the one who made the big investment and was going to be making it. And the first thing he said was, no, I'll take some little extra money, but take some of this and spread it to everybody else.
There you go.
Including the Black Widow.
Yeah.
Because her pay scale went up. Scarlett Johansson's, but because he was saying this was a group effort type deal.
Yeah.
And it goes back to way back, Mike, and it's ironic because it's roughly around the same time that Escape from New York came out. Burt Reynolds was the first actor who got paid $1 million to do a movie. Because of how big he was. It was right after that whole Smokey and the Bandit and the whole 9 yards with that. And when they told him it was $1 million, he said, "Oh, that's a good budget for a movie." And they said, "No, we're paying you that." And he started hyperventilating. And he asked somebody for a brown. He goes and he tells the story. He goes, "I asked somebody, does anybody have a brown bag or something?" And nobody had something. He goes, "Anybody have a Valium?" And everybody at all the other tables were throwing Valium at me because I was buried under the pills. But he was talking about that. He goes, "Why are you paying $1 million?" He said, "You're worth it." And he went, "Really?" And that was at his height. And he was saying, "That much money?"
Remember 30 years ago when Terminator 2 came out and it was $100 million budget and that was like the biggest thing that had ever happened. Like, holy shit, they're $100 million, it cost Cameron to make this movie. Now,
now
100 million.
An average movie.
That's like a drama. That's like a fucking drama now.
And for every penny they put into production, they're matching that or more in
advertising.
Yeah, and I hate to say it, but don't get me wrong, I love getting paid when I act. But I've had a couple of people sometimes offer me a lot more money, and I said, "No, we need to hire another person." Now granted, right now having no money in the bank account because of my financial situation, in my head I'm kicking myself in the ass over it. But there were times when you sat there and said, "Don't pay, get it to this. We got to start advertising, or we have,
Well, if you think that's bad, and we'll just we can stop here, but just look at this: 10 highest paid executives.
There you go.
Zaslav over the past 5 years has made $498 million.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck has HBO and Warner Brothers put out in the past 5 years?
And thank God he's there, because no one else can sit there and collect that money for.
Yeah, exactly. Ari Emanuel, $346 million.
Yep.
Reed Hastings over at Netflix, $209 million.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Bob Iger doesn't deserve a single penny of that.
$195 million. Some guy Ted over at Netflix, $192 million. Rupert Murdoch, $174 million. He got tired of his wife not being invited to those Manhattan lunches, so he's
but that's the biggest surprise to me, because when I see Rupert Murdoch below the top 5, they always advertise him as he's always about making the money, and then holy shit, he's below the top 5.
Oh yeah,
that actually shocks the hell out of me.
Yeah, there's another Murdoch, 171 million. It's not. Yeah. And he's the one who's taking over Fox.
To the mouse, man.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
But I mean, if you wonder, people say that there's no money, and I love the headline in this. Not one person on this list deserves more than $1 million a year.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, when the big corporations, God knows the talent has their issues. Don't misunderstand me.
Right.
But when they say there's no money, you're just like, wait.
Really?
Okay. So, yeah, there's some problems here with the way the money's being distributed. Let's put it that way. All right. So, yeah.
Are we sure that money even exists, though? I mean, is it being made? It doesn't seem like it does. It doesn't seem like people are responding to movies and media in the way that they used to when $1 million was a big deal.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's
like go ahead.
Mike. No, go ahead, Mike.
I was gonna say it's like Austin Powers, where he comes back into the Dr. Evil comes back into the president, and he asks for $1 million, and like nobody moves. Maybe we should ask for some more money. Like number 2 is $1 million isn't a lot of money, really.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. $100 billion. Oh my God. This.
Yeah, but that
isn't much anymore, man.
It's amazing. It really is amazing, because that movie came out
19-year-old on TikTok is probably making $1 million.
Yeah.
It's not what it once was.
There was an old joke that somebody turned around and said, I forget who was president at the time. They said, "Hey, you got $1.4 million," and he mentioned whoever's president. He goes, "That isn't going to go that far," type deal in this day and age. But it's now. I remember there's a friend of mine who got offered someone wanted to buy their book he wrote online, Movie Tone, Playtone. I'm sorry, Tom Hanks' production company. They wanted to buy the rights to it, and he wrote a very simple Christmas story type deal. And he said, "Look, we'll pay you anywhere between $40,000 to $60,000 to convert this into a movie or to buy the rights." And he turned around and said, he looked at me and went, "Stephen King got paid $120,000 for Carrie." And I went, "You're not Stephen King. Don't get me wrong. It's a good book, but and he said, no, he wanted to hold out for more. And they said, "All right, thank you." Click.
Yeah, pretty much. The money they gave Stephen King was to keep him, because he had so many properties. He's not mentioning one property.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get to the part in the stream where we rate the movie. This channel has a rating system that goes from 0 to 5 and up by halves. So 0, 0.5, 1.5, all the way to 5. So 0, for example, would be I'd rather watch my parents have sex than watch this movie again. All the way to 5, which is like, this is cinema, this is the destination, this is why I talk about movies in the first place. Johnny Wawa, a number 1. What would you give Escape from New York? John Carpenter's Escape.
Well, if 0 is watching my parents have sex, and number 5 is me actually having sex, I would actually say
5 is not you having sex.
Yeah. I would say
I told you what 5 was.
Yeah, I know, and I'm ignoring it. No, I would seriously go.
Let's at least qualify it.
Yeah, I would seriously go with a 3.5.
Wow.
Generous. I really would give it. It's there's still stuff that dates it. I mean, and that's a little downgrading, but all in all, it's still a good story, and that's what I've always felt is the first thing to look for in a movie. There's a good story there, and there's still some good performances there.
Okay. All right. 3.5. No problem. Amphibian Bengal. What do you got for me? John Carpenter's Escape from New York.
I'm going to give it a 2.5, right down the middle. The 14-year-old me would probably give it a 4, but it's definitely not something I'm going to bend over backwards to see next time. But it was well worth watching. I had a great time watching it, and you're right. The performances are great. Casting is great. It's a great attempt at a movie that's way beyond its scope, but it still didn't make it there. I mean, if they can make District 9, they could make a decent Escape from New York.
Sure. Okay. All right. So I'll tell you, I gave this a 2. And I remember being very aggravated by the time it was over with because, like I said, every 10 minutes they had a 3-minute fucking advertisement break. So it like carried the movie over for like another half an hour. And I was like, fuck, just let it, I just want to, because there was shit I wanted to do and, it just kept carrying on. And okay, so that said, being here with this conversation elevates it a bit. I'm going to change my rating to, I'm going to give it a 2.5.
There you
go. You've got a lot of solid performances and a not so good script. But again, you're looking at it for what it is in terms of the budget. And I did get no one was phoning it in. No. Everybody was doing the best they could with a B-movie script. Looking at it for the first time, like I said, since 1980, whatever, I didn't feel that it necessarily held up. It is clearly a B-movie, which I'm not necessarily a fan of. Depending on the movie, I'd have to go title by title. I'd still give it I'd give it a 2.5. 2.5. I remember when Eric and I had the discussion, and I had this sort of same revelation when I saw Highlander for the first time in decades. And I was like, oh, this is okay, but I still gave it a 3. I gave it a 3 on the strength of Sean Connery, who's only in it for like 15 minutes, on the strength of Clancy Brown. And like I said, the different things that I've noticed about action stars, not looking like, Lou Ferrigno. And, because I was saying that I remember going to the Philadelphia Art Museum one time, a few years ago. I was visiting one of my professors from Stockton. She lives over in Philadelphia, and then she lives across from the Art Museum. And I went to see a display of armory, these German armory from like 500, 600 years ago. And I was struck by how small the men were.
Yep.
Like they weren't. Nobody was like the Big Show or like the Mountain from like Game of Thrones or that's bullshit. These guys were tiny. Yep. I was looking at some of these axes. I'm like, wow, these things are fucking. This wasn't Conan the Barbarian. With the big guys. And Thulsa Doom's big dudes. Ben Davidson. And all these other guys. Just swinging these 500 pound. That one guy who swings like that 500-pound hammer. Is knocking down entire columns and pillars. These guys were small, and so I appreciated that, and I appreciate that aspect about it too. Here, I missed that to some extent because, like I said, now back then you had to depend on acting, whereas now presence has become a factor in terms of your action stars, with few exceptions like Keanu or Tom Cruise or something. So I give it a 2.5. 2.5. All right. Anybody got anything they need to plug?
Nope. I'm good.
Yeah, my band Otto's Jacket is playing the Middlesex, New Jersey County Fair August the 7th. You can go to Jacket of Otto NJ on Facebook and Instagram. But come see us. Lots of fun. We're pretty darn good. That is the Middlesex County Fair, Monday the 7th. There will be fireworks that night, so bring the kids.
Nice. Very nice. This channel will be back tomorrow, covering the second of 2 films this week. We're going to be looking at Luc Besson's The Fifth Element, which is another movie that I am very much curious to see. It's sort of an off-key kind of movie, and not the typical thing you would see like Bruce Willis in. But it's good, and I think I have a Blu-ray of it around here somewhere, and it's like Criterion Collection. So it's a highly respected movie. But again, another film that is available. Are any of you in for that one?
I'm a maybe. I don't know what.
Yeah, call me in.
Aren't you? Okay, you're in. Okay, John.
I'm in. Yeah, I'll do it.
I think it's another movie that's hold on a second. Let me take a quick look. That was just here. Where'd you go? Don't do that. I think it's another movie that's on Pluto TV.
Okay.
I don't think it's.
I can double check it, man. I mean, I even
no, it's Tubi. It's Tubi. It's Tubi. So the advertisements aren't nearly as abrasive.
Right.
So it's on Tubi. I'll probably crack open this Blu-ray that I bought and I've never had a chance to use, and go check it out. And very
in your chair and it's away from you.
It's right back here somewhere. Actually, right. It literally is.
No, I was doing Bill saying
Bill
there, and I said the hell with it. I just
But it's also a very, very, very young Mila Jovovich.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who is just extraordinarily gorgeous in that one, and the great Gary Oldman playing the villain, and Sir Ian Holm.
Yep.
It's another movie with a 5-star cast. So we'll be back tomorrow.
Tucker on 10.
Huh?
That has Chris Tucker on 10.
Oh yeah, that's right. Fucking Ruby Rod. Ruby Rod. I forgot all about him.
Ever.
I might watch that tonight. I was actually going to watch a Carpenter film. I was going to watch Prince of Darkness, but now I might actually watch that.
There
you go.
Instead of watching it tomorrow.
All
right. My thanks to Johnny Wawa, A#1. My thanks to Amphibian Bill Bengal. And we shall see you in the next video. Have a good night, everybody. And take care.